schools have become too ritualistic. Why do you do a school assembly? Why do you have a sports day? Why do you have an annual day? Counseling is about finding that why in everyday school life and actually finding purpose and meaning, because the kid who gets bored in school is going to get bored in life. We keep feeding off each other. We celebrate their success, they celebrate. So many of them will come back and touch your feet and say, you gave me my life. Teaching is God's work. Counseling is God's work. We've got to find ways to keep it human. A lot of the emphasis was on the student, but we've forgotten the educator. Kids are born geniuses. They are born creative. And the only people we need to work on are the educators, are the teachers. We need to double down on empowering the teachers. We've got to make them superheroes and superstars. We had a very rich Guru Shishya Parampara. We've had very rich history of guidance from Krishna guiding Arjuna in the Mahabharata to so many other examples of counseling. Right? The greatest counselors put all your resources to inspire young people to choose teaching as a career. Teachers are nation builders. The teacher makes the doctor, the teacher makes the engineer, the teacher makes the pilot.
Hello everyone, my name is Aakash Chaudhry. Today I have a wonderful guest with me, Mr. Ganesh Kohli. He's been an educator, an entrepreneur, and a chief counselor for many counselors and many teachers out there in the schooling ecosystem. Today, we will dive into lots of interesting discussions and anecdotes from him and discover what it took to build this great institution and what he's aiming for in years to come. So, diving deep into this discussion with Mr. Ganesh Kohli. Thank you so much, Ganesh, for taking our time today. And, it is a conversation that I was really looking forward to. You have built the IC3 movement and the IC3 Leadership Institute out of so much passion and like a very, very focused mission to actually influence and shape the whole counseling ecosystem of this country and in fact globally. So why don't we just, learn first more about you and what really was going out in your mind in your past life career, which was helping students and teaching them to switch gears to a very, very nuanced and a very difficult area, which is counseling. Very, very underrepresented in India at this point, but very, very important as you know, the world is moving to a far better choice ecosystem. So tell us more about the journey.
Yeah, IC3 was really born out of a survey of grumpy 35-year-olds on Monday mornings. We wanted to know why they are grumpy and what is the correlation between what happens in school and what happens at work. And very quickly we figured that young people around the world, not just in India, but around the world, were leaving schools like airplanes without a navigation system. And they crashed into a world of frustration, anger, sadness, disappointment. Not because the math teacher didn't do the job or the English teacher didn't do the job, but because they didn't have any systemic guidance. The math teacher needed to be a counselor first.
Yes.
The English teacher needed to be a counselor first.
Yes.
And so my growing up years, I was brutally compared with my sisters. And I failed in Hindi.
By your family?
By my teachers.
And the whole society?
Mostly teachers.
Okay.
Not so much my family, but by my teachers.
You were all in the same school?
We all three of us went to the same school, but my sisters were 7 and 11 years older to me. So when I failed in 5th grade in Hindi, I remember I got 9 out of 50. And it was I was a real stigma on the family because my mother was a Hindi teacher at some point. So when this happened, the whole family was called. I was put in the center of the circle and, we're a Punjabi family. So they said, "Ji, ki hoya, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਪੁੱਤਰ fail ho gaya hai. Hindi, ਤੁਸੀਂ Hindi teacher ho." So, I felt such shame and humiliation, and I felt there was something completely wrong with me. And then in 7th grade, I had a math teacher, Molly Ibrahim. She taught me math. And that was the only subject I fell in love with. And I there's something very different about Molly teacher. By ninth grade, I'd become a pretty solid student. I did well. I went on to study engineering. But when I was asked in ninth grade by my mother, who do you want to become? I said, I want to become Molly Abraham.
Wow.
And she was shocked. She said, who's Molly Abraham? I said, she's my math teacher. And I realized that Molly teacher was actually a counselor more than a math teacher. I mean, she was teaching math, but she
was counselor first.
Yeah, she was actually a disguised counselor in that sense, but she brought some direction, some, she inspired in the classroom. She brought some context. And I think that's really the job of a teacher. I went on to teach math. By the way, I did become Molly Abraham,
Right.
and I went on to teach math. And I thought that the best place to teach math was, on the football field. You could teach a lot of concepts in math on the football field, or you could teach math with baking, or you could teach math with music.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of context, counseling for me became about context. It was not career and college counseling is not about finding a career or finding a college, which is what everybody is obsessing about. It's about finding purpose and not finding life purpose. Finding purpose in everyday life. Schools have become too ritualistic. Why do you do a school assembly? Why do you have a sports day? Why do you have an annual day? Why do you teach geography in 7th grade or 8th grade? Why do you do economics in 11th grade? I mean, there isn't enough whys that are answered. Counseling is about finding that why in everyday school life and actually finding purpose and meaning, because the kid who gets bored in school is going to get bored in life. The kid who doesn't find purpose in little things is probably going to feel rather purposeless,
aimless,
in later in life. So we really began IC3 with a very single-minded, single goal: counseling in every school, purpose for every child. And I repeat, it was purpose in everyday school life.
Yeah.
And our definition of counseling was not choosing universities, finding colleges, doing Common App and UCAS very well. I mean, the whole idea, counseling for the largest period was either social emotional counseling in our culture, or it was delivered to those who were already privileged, accomplished, the rich kid going abroad.
Correct.
That's what counseling.
Very transactional in nature.
It was about either the very elite,
okay,
or it was only for those who were moving in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Every kid needs counseling, whether that kid is going to Plaksha or IIT, or is going to, the local college in Mumbai, or going to wherever they are going. Every kid deserves counseling. So this idea that counseling is about, colleges and choosing subjects, that's just 10% of counseling. 90% of it is actually the journey and how you help young people navigate through middle school, through high school, and into university.
No, you're right. And I think it's pretty much like a Google map. You know where you have to go, but you want to find the most efficient way to reach there and avoid all the, ways or going wrong on the track of the destination that you want to go, rightly put. And you said that there was a focus on social emotional counseling also. So has that, have you seen any further development in that area in India? Because that area is also highly suppressed. People don't talk about it. There is a lot of stigma around that. So how do you blend the overall journey counseling with these issue area counseling, if I could put that word there?
So our work has not been in the social emotional space. So I have limited insight to share there, but I know that when I grew up, there was no concept of counseling. I'm an engineer by education, but also by accident. So there is no concept of counseling per se. It was only when someone was not behaving well, they were told you should send them to a counselor. So it was mostly behavioral counseling, or what we call social emotional counseling. But that too in the more privileged schools or in the more affluent schools, I think for the most part, we did not, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and there was no real idea of counseling.
That's right.
I think that even today, the idea of counseling is that it is some special privilege or function or luxury that every school cannot have, or
it's limited to a
doesn't
few.
need to have.
Yeah.
But actually, we are not, at IC3, we've never looked at counseling as separate. For us, counseling is like air and water. It gets into everything. Teaching geography is also counseling. Sports day is also a counseling day. School assembly is also a counseling opportunity. Every teacher is a counselor first. Every principal has to be a counselor first. So our whole idea was a little bit different. Of course, they will help young people navigate into university. But
That's a very small part of it.
Yeah, but young people are looking to answer 3 questions when they get to high school. What to study, where to study, and how to make it happen.
Yeah.
We are basically, obsessing about how, the process.
Right.
This path to get to a particular college but really the what and where also gets answered in the way they go through schooling.
When they have clarity on how,
absolutely.
So what gets figured out.
So it probably will get answered. So it got answered for me possibly in 7th grade in Molly teacher's math class.
Right.
I ended up becoming a math teacher because I got my answer that I need to be, this is what I'd love to do. This is what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And so, I always ask people, and I'd probably, if you remember, what was your best moment in school? If I go back to mine, was the last bell.
Freedom after that.
We're just running home and this is the end of the school day. Yeah. And even today, when we do our research and we investigate, the last we did this was about 8-9 years back. 93% of kids in school were bored.
Wow.
And they loved it.
93.
School, 93%. And if they loved it if school shut down. For whatever reason, it shut down. It rained. Even if somebody died, even in our days, if somebody died and school shut down, what a relief. I don't have to go to school. Yeah. Think about it. This is a time that every young kid should be seeking adventure. Actually their prefrontal cortex, their thinking brain is growing. They're kind of analyzing. They're hungry for new stuff. They should be wanting to go to school.
Whereas they want to run away from it.
But they want to run away because we did not have counseling, systemic guidance and counseling. Because the teacher who taught math or English or geography didn't answer the counseling questions. Who will use what I'm teaching? Where will it be used? How will it be used? Where is it right now in my life? Show me where this math is.
I think the relevance to what was taught versus how this all will get applied in the real world or in the future scenario, that massive gap has always existed, and I feel that it continue to exist because of the challenges of the type of education and the quality of education that is available, and which obviously is an outcome of the quality of people, who are shouldering that responsibility. And that is where my next question is, you've spoken a lot about education equality. What do you really mean by that? What is your definition of, equality in education?
Actually, I just think it's an impossibility. My idea was really that education's happening everywhere. During the pandemic, everybody talked about learning loss. That learning loss was because learning only happened for you in the physics lab or in the chemistry lab. But if you realize that the bedroom was also a physics lab and that there was a lot of real things around you where you could teach physics in the bedroom or use the kitchen and mom's preparing some food, that's your chemistry lab.
Yeah.
Or you could teach pretty much you could teach economics with a chair. Why is it not made of gold? Economics of value. Why is it not made of heavy metal? Economics of weight. You could have done a lot with what was available.
Yeah.
Education,
far more number of props available.
But education's happening everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
When we talk about it only happening in the classroom, then there are certain people who have access to that classroom or a certain quality of educator in the classroom, etc.,
who can leverage that classroom to
do stuff. But really, I think that if we were able to tweak the way teachers thought and looked at their role, we don't need to do anything with the kids. Automatically, education equality will come because every space will become a learning space. There is only so much formal education can do. And a lot of young people are questioning, why should I go to school? What's the point of going to college?
Yeah.
I know an 11th grader who's running a company with 50 people in it. And how I am a big advocate of formal education and higher education, and I absolutely think there's value. But mediocre experiences in school and college are not going to lead young people. They're not going to take them far. And the only way we can go from mediocrity to something a little bit better, something that they deserve, is by empowering those teachers. And that's what we obsessed about at IC3. We never worked with a single student in our journey. It's about empowering the educator.
Yeah.
And I think if there's one thing we needed to do as a country, as a population, particularly in India, we haven't cared for our teachers. We haven't cared for our educators.
The most important profession, which actually creates all other professions.
Absolutely. We have not cared for them. Teachers are nation builders. The teacher makes the doctor, the teacher makes the engineer, the teacher makes the pilot. And I felt uncared for when I started teaching. I'd go to a social gathering in the evening. The doctor comes along, everybody salutes. The pilot comes along, everybody salutes. The chartered accountant comes along, everybody salutes. They ask me, what do you do? I said, I teach. Acha, padhate ho? Kahan padhate ho? So I think we've not honored our educators, and therefore we've got the most demotivated people who couldn't find anything else also come into teaching. It happened for years. In fact, a lot of people, I was told by my mother that men don't teach. It's not a profession for men. Men have to go and fend for the family and earn something. Teaching is something for, people who don't have to. So I felt like we did not give enough energy and attention to our educators. So our mission became empowering the educators, actually pampering them, giving them the resources and rejuvenating their careers. See, there's no point trying to say that we'll now train new people. There are those who are coming through the system. But the existing teachers, we need to rejuvenate their careers. So part of what we've been able to achieve in these 9-10 years is we've been able to rejuvenate a lot of teaching careers. We've turned teachers into counselors, and we've made the dedicated counselors more effective in helping young people find the most appropriate path.
But what you're trying to do, is there a responsibility of the state and the schooling system? And do you think there is a change in that as compared to what it used to be in the 90s and the early 2000s? There was a challenge, and the quintessential B.Ed program and the M.Ed program, I would feel, given my experience, has not kept pace with how the needs of the students and the schooling system has changed. It is not the qualification that would matter, but it's your relevance and your connect with the children. That is more important. And I surprisingly see that is something which is completely missing. So what are these gaps do you still see exist, and what are the new gaps that have come up? Because we have changed, we have seen the change of generation, we have changed changes in the teaching generation as well.
Yeah, I think we've definitely, I'd say, not done a great job with our teacher training over the years. I think, but I think the realization is there. If in the NEP, there's realization on, we see a lot of that emphasis on the professional development of educators, counseling. There's a lot of focus, and I think that a lot of the emphasis was on the student. What do we have to do for the students? What do we have to do in the schools? What do we have to do at university? But we've forgotten the educator. Kids are born geniuses. They are born creative. We're actually crushing them along the way in schooling. And the only people we need to work on are the educators, are the teachers, are the counselors, are the principals. We got to bring their childlike energies back. We need to bring their creativity, their spontaneity, their wonder, their optimism, their ability to let go. All of these qualities our children already come into school with. But our teachers have lost it. Our teachers have been adulterated. Life happens to all of us, and we are all adulterated little children in we're in these adult bodies, but we have a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, curious, creative being lurking within us.
But we've suppressed it.
We've suppressed it. Yeah. And so part of this work really, and it definitely it's government, but how much, I think that every country has its own priorities, right? I think for the longest period, our priority was bringing people out of poverty, taking care of I do a lot of work in rural India and in some very marginalized communities. And I understand there are other priorities. Teaching ka jab sochoge, jab khana khaoge. You've got to figure that when your stomach is full, you will think about. So, you use midday meals and all kinds of things to get kids to school.
Yeah.
So we've done all of that. We've tried to focus on that. But we've forgotten that even if these kids are coming into school, if the teacher is not inspired, is not motivated, and teacher motivation and teacher training and teachers' lack of professionalism is one of the biggest challenges that we have in our system. Our children are going to do great if we can empower our educators. And because educators and teachers were not empowered and were not solid within the school ecosystem, an entire industry was born outside the school ecosystem.
Correct.
And counseling could end up going that same route.
Yeah.
If we do not make every teacher a counselor in school, if we do not make schools powerhouses, you will have a lot of other,
parallel systems.
Because that's how the demand supply thing works. If you don't take care of the needs in school, they will be met outside of school.
It doesn't mean the needs will vanish. It will be met somewhere else.
And that's where education equality you talk about. Yeah. Because the ones who can then meet their needs outside of school will succeed.
And one who can't.
Ones who cannot. So for me, now it's really about how can we make sure that within school, educators, their careers are rejuvenated. And I think it's possible to do. Just that we need to move the needle a little bit. When we go out to fundraise, Aakash, I can tell you, we have a real struggle.
I'm sure.
Because they're saying last mile delivery. How many students?
Yeah.
What did they do? Where did they go? He said, we trained 100 teachers.
Who will be outcome?
50,000, 20,000 students. But don't measure what you did with the teachers. Measure what happened to the student eventually. So he said, fair enough. Now we've started to alter our metric. But it almost feels like, am I wasting my resource equipping someone in the middle? This is the last mile. And this is the teacher here who's in the middle. By supporting this person, am I kind of should I just directly go here? And the idea that we have is we can't reach 1 billion kids, but we can reach 1 million teachers. And that's what IC3 has been trying to do. Can we reach 1 million teachers? Can we reach 200,000 teachers? Can we create an ecosystem? Can we get every school? And teachers need inspiration. They are also not wanting to go to school. You ask them, they wait for the summer holiday. They wait for when school shuts down. Because they have not experienced magic in the classroom.
Yeah.
When they become a counselor themselves, every teacher, they will experience magic.
Yeah.
They will see the joy in the kids' eyes. What kept me so glued to my profession for 17 years as a teacher was the love and the joy I saw every time I took a concept in statistics or in probability and I plugged it deep inside the human brain, and these kids really got it. And that joy, and when they cracked the problem, and we
kept you going.
We keep feeding off each other. Yeah. We celebrate their success, they celebrate. And, so many of them will come back and touch your feet and say, you gave me my life. Teaching is God's work. Counseling is God's work. We've got to find ways to keep it human, to not keep drifting towards the commoditization, industrialization, commercialization. You do that, but you keep it human. And I think that's really what schools need to do at the grassroots level. And, in a lot of government schools, in a lot of, I think the tier 1 and schools have got a good bunch, but we've got to get more, teacher empowerment, and we have to care for our teachers more.
Got it. And what you're saying is, how does this problem, what is the intensity of this problem when you go down to tier 2, tier 3 cities where there is even bigger challenge because, the best of the best talent and resources do not reach those cities. And even if they reach, they don't get that ecosystem to, sort of deliver on what they've been trained on, because there is a resistance at the school level, at the society level, in the breakthrough methods that they want to work with. And, sort of challenge the rigorous regimes which, parents and the school and the society over there is sort of used to over decades and decades. So how acute is the problem, and how are you trying to solve that?
I think essentially schools have a consciousness which is of compliance. Schools were created for compliance. They were created for memorizing, repeating, and following rigid instruction. That's what you needed around the first industrial revolution. You wanted people
that was the outcome
to remember. Yeah. So if you see schools, what is the collective consciousness of schools that I see wherever I go is that you comply. The moment you start to be creative, you're obstructive. You're disruptive.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't. When I ask too many questions, I got a blowback. I mean, it hurt my grades in some cases because I asked too many questions. So we have to be very conscious that in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, the levels of compliance increase, the levels of strictness, the levels of rigidity increase. Society that's slightly more exposed is a little bit more open to how you could be creative.
Right.
So what happens is that their appetite for exploring and for the new comes down a little bit. But the talent that those young people have is incredible. We were in Gomia in Jharkhand in a school where we did some work, and for the first time, 2 kids took on pharmacy. Interning and volunteering during COVID, helping out, and they said, I want to find solutions in medicine. Nobody in that whole community had ever known about careers in pharmacy. We and there are so many other examples, in Rewa in Madhya Pradesh, or in Erode, Tamil Nadu, or in in Chandoli. I went to Manipur in the peak of the violence, when in the peak of the conflict. And all we did was we trained teachers to help channelize the anger of young students into what they're passionate about, sport, music, that's, and a lot of other things. I can tell you that teachers are the magic sauce. If the government really wanted to fix our system, we need to double down on empowering the teachers. We've got to make them superheroes and superstars. And that is really the game changer. But to your point, in tier 2, tier 3, the challenge has been, they're similar. I think a lot of India is now caught up.
Yeah.
But I think the openness to pursue a major in forensic science or photography
Still not there.
is a little less, I would say. They're still opening up, and so I think they're a little more they're a little less courageous because they've been so compliant. So that's really what I see the difference is. And we've been able to change that. We've been able to see kids choose things that they would never. You're in Chandoli at the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya there. I was sent a report and they said kids only thought about engineering, I was told. We had a cohort member who graduated from the IC3 Institute. And they started considering other areas of study, right? Because there's this IC3 Institute trained person went out and started to talk about possibilities, etc. So I think a lot of lack of insight, information, all of that has also been an impediment. And that comes from the lack of professional development for the teachers.
In fact, from what you just said, I'm reminded of a time when I was deciding my career after grade 10, I had an interest in, let's say, picking up, finance and accounting and, as they would call it, the commerce stream. Imagine the narrowness in those days that my family, being in education, did not have any clue outside of medicine and engineering. And I said, you've dealt with so many schools and so many students over the last, 20 years, but I want to go there. And they said, no, I have no clue. Let's not risk it out. These are the staple careers. Please pick this up. And so I did. Despite selecting that, and then I've been reprimanded, why did you select this in the school? And I was asked to go back to the school, cancel the form and change it to medicine. That this is the thing that we know and we're not going to risk it out because this is what is going to has given others a great career. We have seen them flourish. With our own children, we can't take a chance. So this inability, even I see still today, from, with the parents, with the educators, that they don't want to believe in the ideas and the passion what the child is saying. They say, you're young. You will repent later. Listen to me. I know better. You may know more knowledge, but you don't know what's the passion and what clicks for that kid. So that problem persists today, and because of that, there is a lot of limitation in terms of accessing resources for all kinds of careers and global careers. So how's been your experience in actually helping children and educators and counselors to update themselves and expose themselves with far more number of opportunities and upcoming opportunities? Because, every 2-3 years, there is a new set of opportunities, new set of challenges. Are we upgrading? Like in medical science, this happens that you have to upgrade yourselves with, new treatments and everything. So how are you helping them to get the basics right, that you are the psychologist before a teacher, you are the counselor before a teacher, but you need to keep upgrading?
Yeah, I think, and that's part of the challenge that we start as educator. Educator arrogance is a big challenge in general. Once you
Educator arrogance. That's
arrogance,
a interesting term that you mentioned.
it is something that I've watched, that we lose our ability to learn after a certain point. It's a very natural thing that happens to a lot of people. There are some who remain curious and are always unlearning and relearning. But for the most, I found that to be a real challenge, particularly in the early years when I traveled around, that most people, I became arrogant after 10, 12 years of teaching. I thought I knew it all, and it was only when I started to meditate and I started to reflect and I realized how ignorant I was, that I had so much to do. And from that day on, I washed all the chairs in my room and my office, in my home. And I used to sit on a chair called I know, and I threw all of the chairs out. And I only sat on chairs called I don't know or I want to know. And every given moment, that's really what an educator needs to do. The math isn't going to change in school. The English isn't going to change. But how that math will be used, how that English will be used is going to change. The application and so careers and colleges are constantly going to change. And so you need to have the humility to translate what you are delivering in school to the real world. And I think the distance between what's been going on in schools and what's been going on in the world is so huge in some cases. History does not repeat itself with careers and colleges anymore.
Right.
In fact, history, when I graduated engineering, I mean, there were only IT companies recruiting.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what engineering you've done. If you've done instrumentation or production engineering or civil engineering or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, it's the Infosys and the Wipros and the TCSs of the world that would recruit people. You could have done a BCom or a BA and gone to NIIT and Aptech and you would still get the same job.
Same job, yeah.
And by the way, all that you studied for those 4 years was no use. I'll take you to Mysore or I'll take you somewhere else and I'll train you for 1 year.
A refresh program.
You come back a year because so for the longest period, we've been delivering redundant education in redundant settings, but we've not had the courage to call a spade and say that, okay, I've become too arrogant as an engineering college principal maybe, or as a school principal, and I never adapted and saw this world outside change the way it's changing. So I think that legacy of traditional old ways of thinking, we have to break free from. And who a counselor is or who a teacher really is an explorer. You keep discovering newer ways. Because you're now not a supplier of information as they used to be in our time. Google is the supplier of information or AI is the supplier of information.
Yeah.
You really have to make sense of that information and you've got to help unravel that and give me insight. I'm not an educator today any longer to provide information to children, which is what I used to do in the past. I have to provide them insight. And a simple example, I once met a 26-year-old dentist in Hyderabad who told me, I'm fed up of looking at ugly teeth for 5 years. I want to study hotel management. I said, what is going on? He said, if only someone asked you to peep into people's mouth when you were in 11th grade and said, this is not what I want to do. So many people love their puppy dog and say, I want to become a vet. They go to a vet's clinic, angry barking dogs for a week, and they say, no, I like my puppy dog, but I don't want to become a vet. I mean, this is the reality that our education is so distant from our life, and academics are so distant from the fun that there is.
Yeah.
Life is academics and academics is life. And a lot of people are in trouble these days because they talked about work-life balance in the wrong way. And I I could get into trouble as well if I told you, Akash, work-life balance is a completely, for me, it's a complete no, it doesn't make any sense.
Flawed concept.
Because it's a completely flawed concept, because what you're saying is actually personal life and professional life balance. It's not work-life balance. If it's work-life balance, then you're saying work is the punishment I have to endure for a life at the end of it.
Correct.
Monday to Friday punishment, Saturday, Sunday reward. Morning to evening punishment, evening Netflix thriller. Right? Same thing in school. Studying is the punishment, playing is the fun.
Yeah.
Until counseling comes in and I discover that playing football is actually studying math.
Yeah. You need to know how to do that.
You need to know how to do that, because now you are not just teaching math. You're saying, who will use this math? Where will it be used? How will it be used? And where is it in my life right now? I kick that ball. That's the parabola.
Yeah. That's the angle there. That's the theta.
And I'll teach you all of geometry on the football field. Why do I need to go into... So this is really... I want to teach about catalysts in chemistry. I could do it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I could teach you so many things. But that distance between studying and playing, academics and fun, is a creation of the educator. It's a creation of a teacher who's ignorant. It's students don't love or hate their subjects. They love or hate their teachers.
Yeah.
So
it's like any employee, they love their boss or they hate their boss, and that's what turns the table for them.
So nobody will talk about work-life balance if we fix school issues.
Yeah.
If we were able to make every teacher a counselor, they will start to want desperately to go to school. And I have seen schools, by the way, like that. The kid starts crying if school shuts down. The kid is waiting for Monday morning.
Yeah.
And I have seen people working like that also. They love their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is really something that counseling does. For me, counseling is also a nation building activity. Counseling is a peace project. It is actually going to bring peace. People will find purpose and peace in their everyday life. So you asked me at the very beginning, why IC3? Well, I had come back from trying to become a monk, and all I was seeking was peace in everything. And I thought, counseling brings peace. When I have context, I have meaning, I have purpose, I have understanding, I feel peaceful. And I'm on my own path. I'm not on a borrowed path. I feel peaceful. And so that is really what kind of drives a lot of things that we end up doing.
Yeah. And what you're trying to achieve through IC3, obviously counselors are what the counselors will deliver, as they get better at it. But their interaction and their contribution is very much limited to the number of hours of interaction that they have with the child.
Yeah.
A lot of time the child spends with the parents. It's the home environment.
Absolutely.
So this work remains ineffective or incomplete till the parents join the bandwagon and say that, let's make it a collective effort. So as part of IC3 and your experience, what is the importance of bringing the parent in the circle along with the student? And, have you, put the system and the framework and the structure so that the parent side of the story also gets enabled?
Yeah, we have an entire module we teach in the IC3 Institute, which is working with parents.
Okay.
And counseling has been mostly treated as an act to be performed at certain points in school. Our pedagogy and our model of the counseling laboratory essentially talks about counseling as a culture that permeates everything in school. So what happens is it's not a lone wolf function. Then every teacher is involved. And there is a way that you work with parents. Reproduction is a biological process and there is no university for parenting. We're all victims of victims. Our parents are doing the best that they can. But they need certain help to overcome their own fears. Exactly what you just said. You said that this is not a safe career. This is not lucrative enough. This is what we know, medicine. You have to do medicine. In my time, there were 3 options: engineering, medicine, or jail. I didn't want to go to jail. I hated biology, so I ended up doing engineering. But there was no choice. I said I want to be a teacher. I said, bhuka marna hai? You want to die hungry?
Yeah.
No. And that is really what we're talking about, that parents are going to have inherited fears. Parents are going to want to live their life fulfill their aspirations through their children. But parents, I always compare to a tigress guarding the cubs. Remember, go to Serengeti or Masai Mara or somewhere in Africa and you watch the lions or or you go to Kanha here or wherever, you see when the cubs are there. They are going to be ferocious. Parents and schools are at conflict a lot of times these days because we have not understood parents. We've painted them with a black brush. They all want good. The school also wants good. The parent also wants good. But they are traumatized by their own schooling experience.
Correct.
And they're carrying that trauma into conversation. So the counselor is the one who bridges the gap. And when every teacher becomes a counselor, then the way you give feedback, I would dread if a letter came from my school to my parents saying, come to meet. There's something wrong. Parent-teacher meetings used to be about talking about a lot of the
complaining
that are wrong. It was all about... so I think that has changed now. But there's working with parents is an art and a science. We need to hold a compassionate space to do that. And they are a key part of the ecosystem. But more importantly, you said, the kid is going to be in school for 6 hours. The kid's going to be with parents for
longer hours,
the rest of the hours. But it is the prerogative of the school, the teachers, to provide direction for the parents and the students. Far too often I am
They need to be the torchbearer.
They need to be the You can't leave that prerogative to the parents. We have painted parents with a black brush, abhito. It is a very common thing. The moment I go to some school, they start cursing the parents. That the parents are a problem, sir. Don't. Well, the fact is that you are waking up in 11th grade or 12th grade when they are freaking out, or they are kind of comparing their kids with other kids. You started comparing them in primary school around the way they walk, the way they talk, the way
you were printing the leaderboard ranks.
You started to, so now what has happened? Now they are all trying to compete and they're comparing, and that's the root of a lot of the challenges. Every child is so unique. So I think we have to take parents along, and parents are well-meaning, they're committed. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to educate and counsel a child. One of our ideas in the counseling pedagogy is, when you take admissions, make the parents, grandparents write down how they would like to contribute to the community of children in the school.
Right.
Honor them. This idea of schooling, which was very patriarchal, principal's ka table is so big.
Yeah.
And we used to sit like slaves in front of that. Abhi, it's getting over in some of the schools, but still, it's a very hierarchical thing.
Right.
That we co-create the future of the child versus you are the recipient of a service I provide as a school.
Correct.
When school mein kuch bhi hota hai, police comes and arrests the parent. Everybody blames You see, the kind of conflict between schools and parents is like, you can never imagine. Both of them want good for the child. But the conflict is because...
I think the intent is there, but the process is conflicting.
They haven't taken them along, and counseling is that bridge. So therefore, working with parents is a key part of our pedagogy, and how do you actually take parents along? And they help raise... I know schools where parents, Aakash, come and sweep the floor. They cook the food for the children.
Wow.
They volunteer for their children. I know schools in the pandemic where 5 kids were not able to pay fees. 2 other parents paid the fees for them. They feel the community. They feel like we're here for each other. The parents feel the sense of belonging. The parents
That is
aren't
beautiful.
running the school.
Yeah.
But that's what counseling does, where you actually, counseling is a very powerful tool where you actually have that cohesiveness come with the parents and the school.
Right. And in your journey, I think we are running in the 10th year of IC3. A decade has passed. So how much of the efforts that you have earlier envisioned and where you've reached has started showing real outcomes, and do you think it's sustainable, and where is it all going?
Yeah. And I think we're getting stories every day of transformation. We're getting stories of better choices that are made. I gave you the example of these girls going to do pharmacy.
Yes.
Or, stories of kids leaving school in 10th grade, but doing well because they didn't leave school with subjects, but with skills. Because the educators were shown how to turn physics into a skill. Every subject becomes a skill. So we've had, we've had many of these, a lot of this data that we've now started to garner, because earlier we weren't even tracking what was happening with the students eventually. We were only tracking what was happening with the educators and how much were they implementing. But because of our challenges with fundraising in the last 2-3 years, we aggressively started to track the student outcomes. And we're getting, lots and lots of stories of that are coming through. So yeah, I would say I'm encouraged, but I think there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, it's a very high inertia environment schools are. So they're kind of sorry.
No, I was just saying that when you're saying that you just started, so what would a success for IC3 look like, as you look forward next 5 to 10 years? How many teachers transformed or student outcomes changed? Like, what is your metric?
Yeah, so we've committed to 100,000 teachers trained, of which about 5,000 would be master trainers in the next 10 years now. We've, in our first 10 years, we've reached about, 20,000 plus schools. We've trained about 2,500 teachers through our programs, but we've got other professional development, shorter 2-hour, 3-hour professional development pieces that we've done for another 8,000 or 10,000 teachers.
Right.
But our goal is now to have 100,000 educators, school teachers, go through our programming in the next 10 years. But more importantly, we're also looking at policy. We're doing a lot of advocacy work now, where we'd like to be able to propose changes to the teacher training curriculum. We'd like to be able to, and so one of our successes from one of our cohorts was when the teacher asked, how many of you want to become a teacher or a farmer? There were several hands raised. Nobody would want to become a teacher or a farmer in that school.
Right.
But because they explored agriculture and they explored careers around agriculture. So a lot of things that kids didn't think about, they started to choose. But our goal is, we train some people that we can, through, right now, all of our training is live. There's a live tutor, but with AI, we are hopeful that we'd be able to scale, we'll be able to take our content and, as we get the resources to do that. But more importantly, we also bring a cultural shift, a mindset shift in government, in institutions, on caring for the educator, on every teacher as a counselor. And while 10 years back we said every teacher needs to be a counselor first, we are I can say with a lot of conviction today that every teacher needs to be, in another 10 years, is going to be going to have to be a healer as well, in a sense that the sort of mental health pandemic we are facing right now is, you can only experience it when you go on the ground and go into a school and see what is going on. So as we become a more outward looking culture and society, the ability to look within and to find your peace is going to be so important. So I think learning in a classroom will only happen if kids can just be in the moment. If they're going to be it's already so much restlessness and so many distractions, that for you to be able to learn something, you just got to be present.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the future as well. So I think counseling is going to be at the center of everything that schools will eventually need to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we'd really like to define how teachers are prepared. We'd like to keep rejuvenating teacher careers.
Absolutely. And if you had the ear of all the principals in India and you had to tell them to start doing something from tomorrow, what would that one thing be that you would really want all the school principals and directors to?
I have to think. I mean, there are a lot of things we'd want to tell them, but
yeah, I mean,
but the
more the merrier.
the one thing I would tell them is to work on themselves.
Work on themselves.
Work on themselves, because I think I realized that was the most precious gift I gave myself. 2006, I started to work on myself. Until then, I was only working on the children, working on the curriculum, working on the content, working on...
Shouldn't that be the case with every professional? They need to continue to be in a mode of, self-improvement and self-learning perpetually for their life till the time they're serving.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, I mean, if you ask me one thing, then I would say work on your own self. The kids don't need too much. If you can kind of reflect and introspect. And, I would say another thing I would tell them is move from rituals to purpose. School assembly is not meant to be a ritual. There is a purpose to a school assembly. There's a sense of belonging that you're trying to create.
Is this being met? If not, then...
Yeah. And why are you doing the school assembly? There's a lot of purposelessness in their own actions, in our own actions. And that purposelessness kind of carries into the student's life.
Right.
And the other thing is also that they need to be models. We all have to be models. The best gift parents can give their children? Not Harvard education. It's to love each other. The child will learn about love by watching parents. Yeah. How are they with each other? Are they kind? Are they? And similarly, a teacher and a principal has to model to the child exactly what they'd want. Yeah. Your walk, your talk, your humility and your arrogance is all going to be modeled by this child.
True.
I'm sorry to say, but there are a lot of very prestigious institutions that are modeling arrogance. And that's not what you'd really want to do. You have to decide what's important for you. And I think that we have to be a model. So move from ritual to purpose, work on your own self, and be a model for whatever your vision is. You can choose what your values are and what you want to propagate, and then really do it. If you say you want kids to come to school on time,
you got to be on time. Before time,
be on time. But if you commit to being there, being at a certain place, you got to be there at that time. and I think whatever you want out of them, you want integrity, you want innovation, you have to model that. You have to demo, and kids learn through modeling. So yeah, those are my pieces for them.
Oh, they're very well said. And then if I were to switch this on the policy side and you happen to give an advice to the education minister, what policy framework changes or additions would you recommend?
I think I mentioned it, teacher development. I think a country is as good as its teachers and its educators. And I think that we somehow missed this. Everybody talks about the Finland model and that. I mean, essentially, you have to honor the educator. And, we had a very rich Guru Shishya Parampara. We've had very rich history of guidance from Krishna guiding Arjuna in the Mahabharata to so many other examples of counseling. Right? The greatest counselors in our ecosystem. So my recommendation is put all your resources to inspire young people to choose teaching as a career. You should. What are your top 3 choices? Engineering, medicine, and teaching. Whatever that is in. What do you want to become? You want to become a pilot and a teacher and an accountant. So for me, I think just like you do a tourism campaign or visit India campaign or whatever, you have to do a campaign around inspiring young people to become educators and inspiring the existing educators to rejuvenate and also set some policy and protocol on basic compensation structures because a lot of times it's because of very poor compensation and very poor financial prospects as well. And some of these teachers need to run their homes. Right? So in some of the more affluent international schools now, this is all going really well. But
well, that's like a very small percentage.
A lot of other school places, I think, we need more people to come into this profession
and good people. And by choice, not by compulsion.
By choice. And storytellers, teachers are great. Teachers have to be great storytellers. And so yeah, I think we need a campaign. We need resources. We need to set some policy with how teachers get, because the private players will compensate. The coaching institutes will give salaries which you cannot even imagine.
Can't compete with.
I mean, you cannot even imagine. They'll give you 1 crore of rupees to teach a subject, right? A year. But can you even imagine what some of the other people are getting, like 8,000 rupees salaries, like a month for teaching 11th graders and 12th graders, and it's just not enough. So I think we got to fix that, and we got to really focus on our teachers, just like we pamper our other professions. We need to do this.
And do you feel like academics, where essentially there's a lot of focus by schools, because I think their reputation, their next year's admission, and all their accolades are linked to how well the school has done in terms of academics, in terms of percentages that the students got and the careers that the students have placed themselves in different universities. So there is a lot of emphasis on academics. Do you think counseling can ever become a core component of the school offering and experience? Academics is right now and has completely galvanized the entire attention and the bandwidth. Whereas as a result of that, counseling has become a supplemental, peripheral add-on, and that too also on a need basis, not as a structured framework basis. So do you think it'll ever come into mainstream? Are there any schools there who are doing this kind of work?
Actually, counseling is not different in that your academic performance gets elevated when
if you take this approach.
Everything, you have counseling in everything. I'm going to understand chemistry better. I'm going to understand geography better. I'm going to find history relevant. I'm going to find meaning in studying a language. Even though counseling does not appear as a line item on that mark sheet or the grade sheet, counseling takes all those grades out.
Should it appear as a line item?
Well, it cannot.
To bring that emphasis.
It's like, for me, like I said, counseling is like air and water. It permeates everything. So for me, then, sport may not appear as a line item. They play some sport, or they, kindness as a line item, or, it is something that permeates into everything.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of counseling as a separate function,
that's only flawed.
It's completely beyond. It doesn't make sense because it's not a separate function. It's in everything. What is a separate function is the procedural stuff. Who are the people who are glamorized counselors today? The ones who do college applications well.
And that's why it's bucketed as a separate function.
That's kind of college admissions counseling.
Which is very niche area.
Which is very niche, which is fairly procedural. Right? It's fairly procedural. But the exploration happens throughout. The exploration happens in a classroom. The exploration happens in counseling sessions. The exploration happens through parents. Your exploration continues throughout. And the decision making is a byproduct of that exploration, rather than, one person saying, apply to these 8 universities, go to this. It's actually 6 years, 8 years, that stuff goes on. People go to quota in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Maybe counseling,
maybe sooner.
You'll get counseling in 12th grade or 11th grade. The fellow's already 4 years on the wrong path, possibly.
Into the rigor, yeah.
So he probably just chose it because the neighbor was going. So I think that is what we are referring to here. Yeah. Counseling is in everything, but yeah, it has to be taken seriously. If you people think that it will affect futures, of course it will affect futures, but counseling impacts mental health, well-being. It impacts attention spans. It impacts the quality of engagement. It improves learning outcomes. We have all this measured. We have research that shows that learning outcomes are significantly enhanced because of career and college counseling. So all of these facets. Now the point is, the principal or the school doesn't really see that. They see as counseling as a function to apply to college. And why that's not important for me? Because that's after school. I have to worry about what's happening in school. Yeah. But even if it's after school, I want some brownie points, or I want to showcase that my kids went to IIT, or I want to showcase my kids went to some other glamorous institution. University. So let me do a little bit so that I have something.
But there has to be a balance.
Yeah. I have something to show for it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a lot of talk about AI, and that's my last section on how technology is going to impact the quality of counseling, the need of counseling, and scaling this counseling to places where it hadn't reached or it would never reach, because these counselors will never have access, and those students will never have access to these brilliant counselors, and these teachers will never imbibe ideas of inducing counseling behavior, psychological behavior while teaching chemistry, biology, maths, everything. So do you think AI can be a good tool, or do you think this is going to even mess up the current situation?
You know what? I'm probably the most ignorant person to ask that question. So you are better equipped, Aakash, to answer that question for your own audience. But, I got really scared when AI started to come into the mix. I thought it was a nuclear event. You know, I thought it was like the atom was discovered. Now you could make a bomb or you could make energy, right? We did make bombs. We've made enough. We've also used them.
Yeah.
And we're at the cusp, right? I mean, AI for me was a nuclear event. I thought that I'm not even looking at this. For a while, I didn't even look at it because I felt like it's up to human beings how we use AI and what it could do for us and what. But honestly, I haven't fully understood what it could do for the sort of counseling that we are talking about. The way with counseling that we are talking about, I think it could do a lot with the how to make things happen, the procedures, helping
not the
make
intellectual.
decision. No, I think even the intellectual bit, like, filtering data on a lot of universities or a lot of different careers. So for me, for example, I give my hobbies and say, this is my hobby. I don't think that I never recommended young people choose what to study based on, just what was the trending piece. I said, your personal values, your hobbies, and your academic interest. You marry those three things. So what makes you feel good? Studying what makes you feel good? Doing what makes you feel good? And what do you care about deeply? If you answer these questions, now I'm assuming that if there is a model with AI where you can actually train and then kind of project. But I'm realizing now increasingly that at the undergraduate level, unless you're going into a professional degree, unless you're going to do medicine or law or something
which is highly technical,
you are going to have such wide perspectives that this whole idea of specialization seems not even relevant. I think the liberal arts concept and, the Ashoka concept and some of those that broad-based approach is really what most young people are going to actually need, that kind of education where they keep exploring. We to boxed people in 10th grade, commerce, science, humanities, whatever. So I think that we are moving in that direction. I really don't know how AI will help, but I think it could help with certain aspects. Our model of counseling is every teacher as a counselor. So maybe AI could tell a math teacher
how to induce.
Here's quadratic equations I'm going to teach. What are the real examples I can give with quadratic equations on where they are used in life? What kind of professionals use it? So you're kind of correlating. So the geography teacher can ask AI, what is this? What's the value of learning about maps and movements and whatever else? A history teacher could say, why is history relevant? And maybe AI comes back and says, hey, are you watching this Netflix thriller? This, it was a history major who discovered, who wrote this story based, it's an adaptation of a real historical event or whatever. So I think those are the sort of things AI can do, but I still haven't graduated from HI to AI. I think human intelligence for me and human presence. And I think there's going to be a monopoly, to be honest, that humans will have after a certain while. And in counseling as well, where you had a physical presence, a human presence, you had care, you had listening, ability to listen and just be physically present in the room. a lot of counseling is about listening as well. And, so yeah, I think I'll let you address that and tell me what to do and how can we integrate AI in IC3's work also at some point.
Yeah. No, sure. I mean, I definitely believe that there is a lot that AI can help in the ability to understand a child better because of its ability to absorb a lot more data points and make sense of that and create much more deeper models that can understand the child better and sort of match their learning styles and learning journeys, sort of map it out for them and then be very agile as they go along the journey. So there is a lot that is yet to be discovered. Of course, there is a great promise that AI is showing, but time will tell. We are very hopeful about it, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So, coming to our last section, which is some rapid fire questions. Most underrated university globally in your mind?
Globally?
Yeah. People, generally go after the Ivies and all of that. And in your experience, what are the universities or education ecosystem that we are completely underrating that they're one of the most best, but not spoken much about? It could be a country ecosystem.
Yeah, I'd say to name one institution would be very unfair, but I think certain kinds of colleges. So I think I found, I traveled to 400 plus US institutions across 40 plus American states over my time, and I found a lot of the public universities were doing some incredible work. I found a lot of the Jesuit institutions doing some fabulous work. Some were very well known, but others weren't. And similarly, I found when I traveled around in Australia, I found some high quality work happening at several of the universities, which was very relevant. And I think in India, I would have said, if you'd asked me this question 8 years back, I would have said Ashoka because.
But now it's well discovered.
it is well discovered. But I traveled with, so Ashoka was one of the earliest supporters of IC3.
Yes.
And nobody understood liberal arts at that time. And Ashoka actually became a co-host of our conference. Ashoka hosted the first ever IC3 Institute cohort on their campus. So the whole liberal arts story went to the schools quite widely, and it escalated through. I mean, IC3 was part of it, but I'm sure they did a lot of their own work. But they definitely leveraged IC3 as a platform, and I can say that today, people have understood what that education is about. It's broadening horizons. But yeah, that was not quite a quick one answer for you. But yeah, I think there's lots of different types of education. I think destination-wise, we have underestimated the power of going and studying in, say, a Finland or a Japan or
because of the language barriers,
because of the
culture.
Language. I think what is most underrated, I think that language opens the doors to people's hearts. And I think the greatest opportunities for quality education are today in a language that you haven't studied in until, internationally, I think. And so if you can start preparing young people with a foreign language, say in 8th grade or 7th grade or even earlier, and then plan for them to spend time, say in Germany or in Spain or in in Switzerland or in whatever, I just feel it's very, very powerful because as a very homogeneous group there, you come from another culture with the language allows you to become part of that group. But then the sort of perspectives you bring and the kind of learnings you have there, it's quite unique, actually. So yeah, I think language, new destinations are going to be very, very intriguing to see. They're very underrated right now, and I think,
And one piece of career advice parents should immediately stop giving. They give a lot of advice. They're not trained for it. They're slightly away from it. They're more on the FOMO of their, social circuit. Not the best people to give an unbiased advice. So what should they stop giving? What is it that comes up again and again? What do the counselors who come in your programs talk about often?
Yeah, I think they have to, instead of advice, they have to stop giving. I think they have to, they have to unlearn their ideas about careers and
which are old, traditional.
History does not repeat itself with careers and colleges anymore. So I think there's a lot of unlearning for them to do. But I think parents are kind of opening up to that now. And yeah.
Any book you think every teacher who wants to become a counselor also, or a counselor, himself or herself should read?
Actually, that's interesting. I mean, I grew, my professional life, I only read books, or I used volumes of the Peterson's manual or the Fiske guide to colleges, and the best colleges here and the best colleges there. But I don't really have any book which is counseling related.
Or that can emphasize the idea of counseling in the teachers. Anything that you've come across, any text?
I love Wayne Dyer. I thought Wayne Dyer, he has a book that he wrote called Wishes Fulfilled. And it's a spiritual book as much as anything else. He was, and I thought he brought some beautiful insights about, I think there's also another one that I really love, which I recommend students and others to read, is No Mud, No Lotus.
No Mud, No Lotus.
No Mud, No Lotus by Thich Nhat Hanh. And the great master, Vietnamese master, who set up the Plum Village, and I love his teachings as well. I think for the most part, the answers are within us. And counseling is about marrying your competence with what is available outside.
Correct.
So for most people, their focus is on the competition, on what's going on outside, and they completely forget about the inside. The inside is the competence. So from competition to competence, you take the competence and marry it with whatever you have to do in the outside world. So in most cases, all the exploration is outside exploration. My values, my learning style, how I, what I feel good doing, what subjects I'm able to connect better. Those are the sort of things, those are the sharper questions you have to ask yourself, and then you're very likely to make a better choice. A psychometric test doesn't necessarily do that.
True. One thing about Gen Z that gives you hope.
That gives me hope. A lot, actually, but I have to say they're challenging colleagues to have in the office sometimes, but they are extremely creative. They are extremely, I think there's I think the creativity. I
Yeah.
think
Holds no bar.
they
They just
are-
go for it.
It is wildly creative.
Yeah.
I think that gives me hope. I think they are wildly creative. There's a lot that they need to work on as well. But I think I also think that they are generally, they care. Like whatever they do, they care about things.
Right.
And it's hard to kind of brand one. I mean, there's such variation. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. It was a very, very insightful discussion, and I'm sure a lot of that you said would help, clarify not only what parents are going through, but also a lot of educators who are thinking education in a very, very narrow scope. But you've really widened the canvas with them today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much.
having me. Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.